Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. Today we are back on the updates 1.91 dev server, and it's time to have a look at the new Chinese air vehicles that are coming to the game. Now, a lot of these are very similar to the ones that we have in other tech trees, so I'm going to breeze over some of them since there is quite a lot, but also it should be noted that there are some interesting vehicles here which are either slight variations of what we already have or completely new to the game. So let's get started with the Gladiator Mark 1. This is pretty much very similar to the Gladiators that we have in the British tree, but as you can see, there is no Gladiator Mark 1 here. Very close to it, but not exactly. So the Gladiator Mark 1 with its 477s graces itself in the Chinese tree, and yeah, it should be a little bit fun to play. The next set of vehicles is the I-15 BIS and also the I-153 M62. I-15 BIS being one with 4 7.62 PV1 machine guns. If you've never used this machine, especially in arcade, it's incredibly fun to just float about the sky in it and try and rack a people. Then we have the M153 M62. This is very similar to the one before it, but it has Shikas machine guns, and also it can carry some RBS-82 rockets, which have up to 60mm of penetration. Can be incredibly good in ground forces, especially at the low tiers. Then we have the HS-123A1. This is a German dive bomber, or a German, well, naval bomber? I suppose it's a German bomber, whatever happens. But it was used by the Chinese against the Japanese Navy, and as you can see, can carry a decent bomb load of 450s and one 250 at the wonderful BR of 1.3, with of course two 7.92s. Then we get into some American vehicles. This is the Martin 139WC. It looks incredibly similar to one that we have in the premium section of the American tree. Does have access to 6 100 kilos in two settings, two 200s and two 250s as well. So you can pretty much just take what you feel like and have a bit of fun with it. Does have a lot of guns on it as well, 3 7.62s to try and keep it alive. Then we have the premium, or the starter premium, for the Chinese, which is the Hawk 3, which is an American plane, which was moved over to China where it was used. It has access to the right 1820 84 14-cylinder radial, 800 horsepower worth of stuff. Then of course it has two 7.62mm Browning machine guns on either side of that wonderful engine. The Hawk is a plane I've been looking forward to for a very long time in the game, just because of its iconic history, and also the fact that it is a really nice looking plane. It's as simple as that. It is one of the biplanes which actually has retractable gear, which I'll show you here in this video as we go into the test flight. There we go. Yes. And the cockpit is definitely interesting, let's put it like that, but it does take off very easily. And as you can see, retractable gear. So it does have quite a thick undercarriage when you put the wheels in, but it is nice to see. They are still rolling, which is a little bit worrying, but you know, we'll take it because I'm incredibly happy to see this little machine. And you could probably hear some of the new aircraft sounds. They've definitely made the aircraft sounds a lot more aggressive when it comes to what you can hear. So you can see with these planes over here, I can hear them from miles away, where I can't even really hear my own engine over them, but that can be sorted in the sound settings. So yeah, I'm very happy to see this plane. It has some really nice secondary armaments as well, so I'll be looking forward to using that in the future. The next vehicle that we have access to in the Chinese tech tree is the CW21, or the Curtiss-Wright 21. This is a Bass Racing 1.7 machine with two 12.7mm guns and two 7.62s. This is a machine which was designed for exports and eventually got exported to the Chinese because the people who wanted to buy it, the American government said no, basically. So it has 400 rounds of 12.7, 1,000 rounds of 7.62, and a Wright Cyclone R1820-34 in it. Doesn't have any secondary weapons. It only has the guns, so this is going to be an out-and-out fighter that you can use in air forces or ground forces. Then we have some I-16s. We have the Chung 28 at 1.3. So this has the PV1 machine guns, once again, 1,800 rounds of them, and no other, no rockets or anything like that. So you're going to have to get used to using this at very low altitudes and just flopping about. If you've ever used the I-16, it's incredibly fun to fly, apart from these early ones, which feel very underpowered compared to the others. This has two Shikasses, the I-16 Type 5, and I believe it's lifted from the Soviet tree, or at least it's very similar to it. Then you have the Type 10, which is sat here. It has 4 Shikasses, so that's the main difference between the two vehicles, which moves their BR from 1.3 to 1.7. The A29, which is the same as the Hudson in the British tree for a premium, so it has access to the 6 100s and 4 250s. You can't actually change the weaponry on this. What you have is what you have. And also, it gets some nice guns. So you have 2 7.62mm Brownies, a 12.7mm turret in the back, and also one on the bottom, which is of course a 7.62. So that's lovely to see as well. The Ki-27 Otsu is once again lifted from the Japanese tree, so nothing new there. The P-66 is a new American vehicle in the Chinese tech tree. Once again, an export vehicle, has 2 12.7s and 4 7.62 now, so we're going up in the weaponry, and it also has the Pratt & Whitney R1830-17 attached to it, which is really nice to see. The unfortunate thing, once again, though, no secondary weapons, so it can only be useful really in air realistic, and also as an air superiority fighter in ground realistic. The Ki-43 Co, which is probably the one you would want to use as an air superiority fighter, is sat here though. It has the 2 12.7mm Ho-3 machine guns, and it does have access to 500 rounds of ammunition with some air target belts. So overall, a very nice plane. Very nice to see it once again make an appearance in the Chinese tech tree. The next vehicle is the SB2M103U, a Soviet vehicle, which is coming to the game. And do we actually have this one? This might be one of those ones that was taken out of the game a while ago. Yeah, it might be. We'll have to see. Because I think there's one that I missed, and I think it might have been this one. So it's nice to see it back. The main difference between this and the others is its engines. It has some Klimov M103As, 12 cylinders. The secondary weapons are incredibly good on the SB2Ms, meaning that they're very fun bombers to use, and they generally have pretty good coverage from their guns, apart from the fact that this one doesn't have a bolt turret on the top, so you do have quite large blind spots, like underneath and also above this machine. It's going to be really easy to approach it. The next one is the P-40E1, which of course we have in the American tree, but this is a very snazzy camouflage. The American P-40 does actually have a ton of really nice camouflages in the game already, but with the advent of this one, I've got to say I really like the bright green color that we see in front of us. It does of course have 650 cals, very good plane. Problem is though, no secondary armaments apart from some 500-pounders. Would have been nice to see some better ones than that. The Ki-44 High is next, a very good air fighter when it comes to Japan, making its way to the Chinese tree as well. And it does have some secondary weapons in the form of 2 100s and 2 50s. Then we have the DB3A, which is very similar to the DB3B that we see in the Soviet tech tree, but it has slightly worse engines than it. So that's the main difference between the two modifications. And of course, it has a lot of really nice bomb loads as well, including bringing along 1,000 kilo and also 2 500s to ruin your day. The P-43. The P-43A1 is the Lancia that we have as a gift vehicle in the American tech tree. No difference there. It's just it's a more maneuverable, less powerful P-47. Then we have the Ki-61 Otsu, which is a direct copy from the Japanese tree. The P-47D28, I mean, it's another tree with another P-47, and unfortunately this one also gets access to all the secondary armaments, so have fun with that in ground realistic, where you're going to find it. But my god, that's like what, the fourth tree in game with the P-47. Not happy. The I-16 Type 17, the main difference between this and the other Type the I-16s is the guns. Has two 20mm Shivaks, a little bit too high in BR to be that effective, but it's still really fun to fly, and you can catch people out with the maneuverability of the machine. Another B-25 is coming to the game. Not too much different from the other B-25s that we see. Three 12.7mm turrets, plus a dual 50 cal up here and one in the tail. So the B-25 is always a pleasure to fly, especially when it has the 3 1,000-pounder bomb load. So it's going to be nice to grind out another one in this tree. You got the Ginga, the P1Y1. This is a direct copy from the one from the Japanese tree. Then we have the PB4Y2, the Abomination, which is now in 3 trees. The French, this one, and also the American tree. Then you've got a Mosquito. I'm very annoyed by this Mosquito because it's just a better version of what we already have in the British tree, so I'm not going to say any more about it before it annoys me. And then we have the B51 P-51d, rounding out that really nice 5-3 ground lineup. You're going to have Hellcat, IS-2, 2 T-34s, P-51D, P-47. Sounds absolutely wonderful. And this camouflage, really lovely on it. Do really like this camo. And it does have access to the 2-1000 secondary weapons that you can use in ground. The next one is the LA-9, which is kind of a surprise to see, but unfortunately the LA-9 isn't the best in the world at the moment because the guns aren't that effective. It used to be an absolute killer, but right now gets done by super props, and it does mean you have a 2.7 to a 6.0 gap in the Chinese tech tree. IL-10 1946, exact copy of the one out of the Soviet tech tree. And let's just make sure I install that. There we go. And then we have the Tu-2S44, exactly the same deal as the one before. Very good ground attacker though. And then the Tu-4, another Tu-4. That's all I can say. P-38L1, which actually has an interesting gun pod on it. It has access to 4 MGs, which you can get on the wings. So in total, you can get yourself 8 50 cals and a 20mm. So a lot of firepower, very close to the F-82E. And then we have the P-51K, which is just a P-51D with a slightly different prop, and should really perform like that, but for some reason it's a little bit higher in BR, so we'll have to see if there's some tomfoolery going on. Then we have the F-86 F-30, which we already have in game, 650 cals of course, with a nice skin. And then we have the MiG-9 with the green. It's a MiG-9 from the Soviet tree. MiG-9L, same deal, straight from the Soviet tree. Then we have the F-84 G21RE, straight from the French and the American tree, I believe. But it does have a really beautiful skin on it. A lot of craftsmanship gone into that. Really happy about that skin. The H5, which is an IL-28. So, yeah, with a brown skin. And does have access to the Fab 3000. So have fun with that. And then, of course, the premium, the top tier premium, for the Soviets is the for the Chinese, sometimes it's easy to get them confused, is the Shenyang F5. This is a MiG-17. This is a MiG-17 with access to PL-2 air-to-air missiles. It sits at 9.0. If you want to grind out this whole tree, just use this and have fun. But yeah, so wonderful. And then you've got the J2, which is, I believe, a MiG-15. Then you've got the J4, which I believe is just a MiG-15, maybe a MiG-15 bis. And then you've got the J6A, which, can you guess what it is? That's right, it's a MiG-19, with access to 2 30mm NR3s, and of course the PL-2s, the PL-2s. Then, J72, which is a MiG-21, but it's actually based off a slightly better version of the MiG-21 than the Soviet one. So technically, this should actually have better characteristics than the one that we find in the Soviet tree. I haven't found anything that would actually prove that, though. And it is really nice to see it for the Chinese, and I'm sure we'll get a bunch of other planes as well. On top of this, I missed the premium, the H-81A2, which is, of course, the Flying Tiger machine. You can see it only has one skin. Hopefully, at some point, it gets a few more. and also it gets access to a 500 pounder. So it's not as good as the Kitty Hawk in the tree, but it is incredibly useful at what it does. It also has the two 12.7s right here, and then of course the four 7.7s in the wings. Hopefully this is a fun little premium to use to grind up the tree. But I'd say this tree overall, it looks pretty fun. You know, the I-16s are always great at low tiers. They've pretty much just picked the best the best Japanese planes at each BR to stick in. The American ones, you know, the P-51's always fun, P-47's always fun. The bombers are great. Mosquito, I'm very sad. Tu-4, even sadder. And of course the jets, I mean, they're copies of pre-existing vehicles. So if you want to play pre-existing vehicles, be my guest. I'm not a fan. I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time.
I'd just like to thank Ambrosius McClellan, B. Young, Blackie, Daniel Stanton, John Ryman, Joseph Anders, Martinez, Mopar 1969, Moxie, Super Cacti, Uyans Terry, and Eel of Goats, and of course Seductive Trash Can for supporting the channel.